are live, people. We are live. Man, I want to talk about Terrence Crawford coming to 140 to the welterweight division, and what do everybody think about Terrence Crawford coming to the welterweight division, and what he will what you think he'll do at the welterweight division. Do you think Terrence Crawford will do as well as he did at 140 or what? But my take on it is, I always thought Terrence Crawford, when I see him at 135 and then when I seen him at 140, I always thought Terrence Crawford can do something at 147 based on his skill set. Terrence Crawford, the way he fights, man, he can box, he can bang, he can turn southpaw, he can turn orthodox. Terrence Crawford is a very versatile fighter. He will be the most versatile fighter at 147 pounds based on the way he can switch. He's a switch hitter, and he can box just as well at southpaw as he can orthodox. The first time I seen Terrence Crawford was against Prescott in 2013, and he fought. Well, a lot of people don't realize, some people probably do, but he fought Prescott on short notice. He stepped in because British Prescott opponent, could not fight for some reason. So Crawford stepped in, and I don't think his team wanted him to do it, but he told them he had it. So he went in and outclassed Prescott. And the way he was fighting Prescott, he was counterpunching, and he reminded me in that fight. He reminded me of Pernell Whitaker. The way he was ducking punches on the inside, he was ducking punches at mid range, countering. You know, a lot of people, they will make you miss, but they won't make you pay. You know what I'm saying? And Whitaker was always one of those fighters that said, if you make a guy miss, if you're gonna do all that trouble, make a guy miss, make him pay. So Crawford, man, he was brilliant in that fight. And that was my first time ever even hearing about him. That was my first time ever seeing him fight. And I said right then and there, I said, man, there's something special about this guy, man. I think I made a video about it saying, man, Terrence Crawford, man, this dude is a special talent. It's just the way you see how guys move fluent in the ring, man. He was comfortable in every aspect, you know what I'm saying, of the ring. You know, he was comfortable going backwards. He was comfortable going forward. He was comfortable in the pocket. He just was comfortable. He was comfortable banging when he had to bang. That's one thing about Terrence Crawford. He's comfortable doing anything. And then, you know, he won his first world title against Ricky Burns. You know, he went to the UK, fought Ricky Burns, won a unanimous decision. That was a good look. You know what I'm saying? Then he fought Yorkis Gamboa. Gamboa was undefeated, but Gamboa did come up in weight. You know what I'm saying? And I remember me and Bossanages in Zone, we was discussing the fight. I picked Terrence Crawford. Zone and Bossanages picked Gamboa. You know, Gamboa is Bossanages' favorite fighter, so you know he gonna go with his favorite fighter. It's his natural. And you know, we really didn't know a whole lot about Terrence. You know, he did beat British Prescott at that time. He got a couple other good wins up in there, and he had beat Ricky Burns. But you know, a lot of people that don't think a whole lot about Ricky Burns. It was just the stage he was on, able to go in there in Ricky Burns' backyard and just take him apart. That was the most impressive thing about it. Not really Ricky Burns himself. So you know, they said that Gamboa would beat Crawford. You know, Zone kept saying Crawford. He think Crawford is weak, but you know he came around though. You know, Crawford. You know naturally. You know, you want to see how a guy does. You know, sometimes you don't want to just step out there. But I just seen something in that British Prescott fight that told me this guy can fight, man. So he was losing, to be unfairness. He was losing the first 3 rounds against Gamboa. You know what I'm saying? And then he just made adjustments, came out and started you know what I'm saying, staying in the pocket and landing power shots on Gamboa. Ended up knocking him down like 3 times and stopping him. That was a great victory. You know what I'm saying? He fought Thomas Delorme. I thought that Thomas Delorme fight was underrated. I thought he did real good against Thomas Delorme. I thought Thomas Delorme was a little taller, a little longer than the guys he was facing up to that point. A lot of people say he was fighting smaller guys, but Thomas Delorme was just as long, just as tall as him. And, you know, Thomas Delorme was doing good in the first couple rounds, and he made an adjustment, and he ended up stopping Thomas Delorme. You know what I'm saying? Then he beat Jerry John. At that point, Jerry John had only lost to Lamont Peterson. You know, that was Jerry John first loss when he lost to Lamont Peterson. And that was a good victory. You know what I'm saying? He stopped him. You know, Hank Lundy. You know, Hank Lundy is a veteran. You know, he's been around, had some tough fights against some tough fighters. You know what I'm saying? So that was a good victory. He ended up stopping him in 5. And, you know what I'm saying, then he had that fight with Victor Postal, you know, for the unification, you know, the WBC, WBO unification bout. He outclassed Victor Postal, knocked him down a couple times. And that was a great, great victory for him. And, you know what I'm saying, he fought John Molina. I think that's when he moved. No, he fought John Molina at, what did he fight John Molina at, 140? Yeah, 140. Yeah, 140. So, yeah, because he fought Jerry John and Delorme at 140. Okay, yeah, 140. So that was a good, you know, John Molina, you know, he's a veteran. He's been around, you know what I'm saying? And he has power. John Molina is not like a world beater or anything like that. But that was a good victory. He ended up stopping John Molina. And then Felix Diaz, who gave Lamont Peterson, you know what I'm saying, trouble. All he wanted when they fought. And that was a good victory versus Felix Diaz. But you know, then Julius Ndago, when he became the undisputed 140-pound champion, that was another great victory for Crawford. But I always thought Crawford would do good at 147. I don't see the guy that I see him giving the most problems is not the guy everybody think. A lot of people think it's going to be Errol Spence. I think it's going to be Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman. See one thing about, you have to look at what a guy can do as far as making adjustments in the ring. Keith Thurman can make adjustments in the ring. Keith Thurman can fight going backwards. Keith Thurman can fight going forward. Keith Thurman is a devastating body puncher. Well, a lot of people don't give him credit for it. Keith Thurman is a devastating body puncher. Go look at some of his fights. He have hurt people to the body, you know what I'm saying, on multiple occasions. You know what I'm saying? So you need to go and look at his fights and see how he hit people to the body. He's not a guy that, like Earl. Earl goes to the body constantly throughout the fight. Keith Thurman is a precision body puncher. You know what I'm saying? And usually when he hits you there, he usually hits you on the button and gets you in really, really bad trouble. But I think Keith Thurman would be his hardest fight. See, Errol Spence, I'm not saying Errol Spence is going to be a walk in the park, but Errol Spence is more of a fighter in the style that Terrence Crawford can just take apart. Because Errol Spence comes forward. He's going to always be in your wheelhouse. You know where he's going to be at all times. He didn't make an adjustment versus Carol Brook. All he did was fight harder. He did what he did harder. He didn't make any adjustments against Carol Brook. He just kept fighting harder and harder until he broke Carol Brook down. That's what happened. He broke Carol Brook down systematically. He would not be able to do that against Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford got too many. He just fight at too many angles. He has hand speed. He could throw every punch in the punch arsenal. He could fight going backwards. He could fight going forward. He's a boxer and he's a fighter. That means he can get down and fight when it's time to fight you. He will fight you. He can get down and do that too. That's one thing I like about Terrence Crawford. You know, Errol Spence is a dog too. You know what I'm saying? Errol Spence is a dog, but he just don't have as many tools in the tool shed as Keith Thurman and Crawford, in my humbling opinion. You know, everybody got their own opinions. But Errol has proven himself. But I just think Crawford, man, if Crawford become undisputed at 147, man, and he was undisputed at 140, and he was unified at, I believe, at 135, he was unified, man, that's one hell of a career, man. You know what I'm saying? He has to be, if he come up and make it at 147, become undisputed, you got to put him amongst one of the greatest fighters of all times. Not of just his generation, of all times. Because that will be a feat man, that will be a great feat that he accomplished. But you know, his first task is against Jeff Horn. I believe he'll beat Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn is a tough, rugged fighter. Jeff Horn can get dirty in there. He can get really physical. But look, Terrence Crawford likes that fight. I found out that Terrence Crawford loves to fight. That's his nature. His nature. He can box, but his nature, he wants to mix it up. He wants to fight with you. And I just think I believe Jeff Horn, because he's strong, Jeff Horn will give him some trouble in the early rounds, but he will break Jeff Horn down and just break him down and just beat him up. It's going to be, by the 6-7 rounds, it's going to be Terrence Crawford beating him up, and the referee probably stopping the fight in the later rounds, round 9 or 10. But I don't think he's going to fight Keith Thurman or Earl Spence quick like everybody else think he is. I think when he fight Jeff Horn, Earl Spence and Keith Thurman, they will still be tied up, because let's just say Earl Spence fights Lamont Peterson in January. I think you know, Crawford will fight Jeff Horn by March. So, and then Keith Thurman is going to fight his mandatory. I mean, not his mandatory, his warm up. So all three of them going to be kind of like fighting around about the same time. Then Keith Thurman said he want to fight his mandatory, which would be Sean Porter. That would leave Earl Spence and Crawford free after their fights, after their prospective fights. Now, I don't know if Earl Spence will have a mandatory for his IBF championship, or if Crawford will have a mandatory for his WBO. That's the only thing but the boxing organizations, WBO, WBC, IBF, they usually say, in WBA, they usually say they will let you unify, and they will let your mandatory wait one more fight. But that all depends on how they want to run that. They probably will have to fight mandatories. So I don't see these guys mixing it up into 2019. Don't be surprised if I don't think none of these guys are going to fight each other into 2019. I think 2018 will be the warm-up to 2019. That's why you heard Keith Thurman say, I want to fight my mandatory, I want to fight my warm-up. He want to get the mandatory out the way. That way, in 2019, he can be free to fight either one of those guys. He should be free to fight either one of those guys. Because Lamont Peterson gave up his WBO interim championship or something like that. He gave up his mandatory spot to fight Keith Thurman, to fight Earl Spence. So that means Keith Thurman will not have a mandatory for the WBA, but he still will have a mandatory for the WBC, which is Sean Porter. So get that out the way. You know what I'm saying? It's still a tough fight, but he's been in the ring with Sean Porter. He should make an adjustment. He should stop Sean Porter this time. You gotta see, one thing I didn't like about Keith Thurman in the first fight, even though I thought he won 8-4, he could have stood his ground a little bit more. If he stand his ground in the center of the ring a little bit more, don't give up ground going backwards. Fight Sean Porter at angles in the middle of the ring. He can stop Sean Porter, man. Because Sean Porter be coming in with his chin up too sometimes. His chin be vulnerable. And Keith Thurman can tap that chin, man. He's got to be patient. He has to stop giving up ground going backwards. Go at angles. Like, if you have to hold him as a tactic sometimes, and when he come at you and try to push you back, do that. But keep the fight in the center of the ring, man. And I believe he can stop Sean Porter. That's what he's going to have to do to shut Sean Porter up, man. He's going to have to stop Sean Porter. Just stop this man. Stop Sean Porter. Get past Sean Porter. 2019, we can see Spence Crawford or Earl Spence and Keith Thurman. It's going to have to be Earl Spence and Keith Thurman first, because no way I see Crawford fighting any one of those guys until them guys fight each other. That means Crawford, while them guys fighting each other, Crawford going to have to fight somebody else. And Bob Arum want Crawford to fight Pacquiao, but Pacquiao don't want to fight. Pacquiao and Freddie Roach don't want to fight. I don't think Pacquiao at this stage of his career can beat Crawford. Yeah, he can get Crawford some trouble, but I don't think he can beat Crawford at this stage of his career. You know what I'm saying? Crawford is at his peak. Crawford is at his apex. He's at his just right there where he needs to be, in that sweet part of his career where everything is clicking. And Pacquiao is on the downside. But let me know what you think about Earl Spence coming to the welterweight division. I'm out.